Hey, all you Arizona lovers. This is the Finding Arizona podcast, episode number 362. I'm your host, Jose. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for watching. We've been trying to put our podcast onto a video format, so if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you so much. We'd hope you subscribe. Next up this is the episode with Aesthetics Biomedical. MaryAnn is the owner and CEO. She is the leading industry and technologies for personalized aesthetics. I appreciate her coming into our show and telling us about how she got started and just kind of giving us a little rundown of what keeps her going, what keeps the business flowing. It was a very interesting topic and very interesting conversation. So we hope you enjoy it. Next up, if you can help us out by checking us out at findingarizonapodcast.com. That is where you'll find every episode available. And also, you can check us out on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, and on Spotify. So we're a little bit of everywhere. But if you want to stay connected with us social media-wise, everything is under Finding Arizona Podcast. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you let us know who you wanted next. We'll try and make it happen. If you want to send us an email, that would be findingarizonapodcast@gmail.com. We always try and get back to you as soon as we can. We always love hearing from you, the audience. But as always, we are just an open door policy. We want to get in as many people as we can, and we want to share these stories because we love them. We want to share what the community has to offer. I have a little bit of a life update. Our son is now 2.5. He has gotten so many words under his belt, like he knows how to say certain things. He's having full-on conversations with myself and my wife. It is so incredible to see him grow up. We hope that you guys stay connected with us through our own personalized Instagrams, because that's where you'll get a little bit more. But if you just want to see life updates, that's always available on our vlog on YouTube. So we hope that you guys like that as well. We want to give you guys an open book or open, look into our lives. We try our best to be great parents to Atlas, and he's just been so fantastic, and I've been having such a great time. We just recently went to the Crayola experience over in Chandler, Arizona. That was a lot of fun. We were just so, he is an artist. He loves coloring, he loves markers, but it's just really great to see him just explore and experience new things. So that is what a little bit of a life update on our end. So that being said, let's just jump into the episode. This is episode number 362 with Aesthetics Biomedical. We'll check you out on the next one. Kisses, hugs, and belly rubs. See you next time. Welcome back, everybody, to the Finding Arizona podcast. I'm your host, Jose. As always, we bring in very fantastic guests every week. Today, we have MaryAnn, but I'm going to let MaryAnn let us know what her business is called and what we're going to be talking about today. Go ahead, MaryAnn.
Hi, so nice to be with you, Jose. Thanks for inviting me. The company that I founded and am CEO of is called Aesthetics Biomedical. Yes. It is a company that basically looks to create personalized approaches to aesthetics.
Awesome. So one of the things that I've always asked everyone, and it kind of just fascinates me, is just give us a little bit of your origin story and how you came to this business and how we even got here.
I feel like I was the pioneers coming across the United States to get to where I am today. I actually spent most of my career out in the East Coast. I'm in Arizona now, obviously, but at the National Institutes of Health. Mm-hmm. And so my background was really on the business side of the NIH and really worked hard to create a relationship with private industry. When I was there, they finally allowed the intramural scientists, the scientists that did the work at NIH, to start interacting with private industry. Before they weren't allowed, it was a conflict of interest. So it was called the Federal Technology Transfer Act. And it allowed us to finally interact with like pharmaceutical companies, which is really important because when you design and you develop research, it belongs to the government. Mm-hmm. They don't have a pharma company. They can't design the diagnostics and produce the drugs. And so you would have all this federal, all this public funding going into science that might not necessarily get out to the public because And so I played a very active role in what they call their tech transfer program and set up agreements with private industry. And at the end of it, I was lucky. I worked for Allergy and Infectious Diseases, Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, and ended up at the National Cancer Institute. But I can look back on some of those agreements and see that the respiratory syncytial virus, RSV virus vaccine, we got out because of a relationship with industry, dengue virus, hepatitis B, chlamydia.
Yeah.
So, it was really nice to see that action led to outcomes and that benefited the public. Came out to Arizona with the TGen, Translational Genomics Research Institute, and again, brought out to try to make sure that they had that bridge initially to get the science out to the public. And so helped TGen do that. And then eventually set up a nonprofit biomedical incubator to work with the local universities, to work with local entrepreneurs, to try to use philanthropy to put first dollars in to start up companies. So you would benefit Arizona economically, create jobs, take public taxes, and get those wonderful research outcomes into the public faster. And as I was doing that last gig called BioExcel, I was working with a lot of investors, and they said, why don't you start your own company, MaryAnn? We'll be there to support you. Todd Davis, who was in LifeLock, was one of a big advocate for me. And so we saw this technology come out of Korea. It was called RF microneedling, something that was new to the U.S. In the aesthetic industry. And so we helped them, BioExcel kind of helped them get through FDA, helped them write a clinical study that was needed, did the clinical study. One of the physicians that we knew did the clinical study. That led to the clearance of the device with the FDA. And then it was like, well, now who's going to sell the device? And there you go, Aesthetics Biomedical.
Yeah.
We were created and off to the races. So it was a long answer to your question. But
No. I loved it because it does really paint a picture of like, this is kind of a long-term kind of business that looks at a scope of like, 20 to 30 scale, where it's just like some people, they actually we get a lot of people who back into their business where it's like, look, I just, found a need and just ended up doing it like me. I found a need for these business owners who had wonderful stories, who had, a lot of intrigue and just diversity and just fun spirits that I just was like, look, I have to capture these. I have to find, I have to allow them to tell me their stories so that I can capture them and be a cheerleader for them essentially. And so that was one of the biggest things for me is like, I like to say it's like, I had the opportunity or, there was an influence for doing the podcasting, but it was the actual like nature of there's a need to be filled and I was there to fill it. And so I'm very happy to say that, like, again, this is something that you kind of developed and grown into rather than fall backwards into. So I love that. I love that your journey has allowed you to not only see the bigger picture, but also see kind of your influence on that bigger picture, being able to say, hey, look, we influenced and allowed, this change. And from that change, we've made positive influences and positive businesses and things like that. So thank you again for sharing that story. It's like, it's a storyline for you. It's a story in itself for your business. So I think that really just allows us to see it on that scope, like you have, being able to say, dwindle down all your years of work into this one paragraph, but it still says a lot about where you've been and where you're going.
Well, I think it's really important, like what you're doing. It's very hard to start businesses. It's the American dream. You start your own business, and you're off and running. But it's complicated. And it takes money. It definitely takes the village. You need a lot of people around you to support you and to help you. And then if you're in the medical area, biomedical research, biosciences, you have more hurdles because, you have regulatory clearances
Yes.
and things. And so, and let's just throw in COVID too, to make it even more fun and more challenging. So,
Yes,
yeah,
because I keep telling everyone it's like that affected all of us on a fundamental scale, not only, for businesses who may think that they're on this axis of like, look, it's just me, but no, you are getting help from your, wherever you get your supplies from, that was affected. Your
huge.
actual customer base is being affected because they want to, be safe and save their money for what's possibilities to the outcome of COVID. So it's like you have all of these different factors that are affecting your business. I'd love to kind of get your perspective during that time of like where was your business at that time and how did you guys stay afloat?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think we were very lucky. And one is I applaud the government who stepped in with the PPP and
Mhm.
small business loans and things like that, because I would say that that was the first thing that absolutely got us through COVID. I mean, we were
Wonderful.
just about to sign a $10 million term sheet in February of 2020, and they pulled it in March when they saw COVID. So, I
Ah,
mean, so here we were, at the cusp of really being able to take off. So the federal funding, allowed us to get through that, pay salaries, and keep going. And then we were able to secure some debt financing as well, which was kind of at the same time. And that allowed us to keep some of the R&D that we had underway going.
mm,
And so we really, I would say, we just said we will not be slowed down. We will find ways to, get things to keep moving. Our vendors here in Arizona worked really closely with us to give us some slack and, how quickly we had to pay everything. And I think that is really important because, we are up to now 50 jobs. We our inventor of two of our products was a local ASU graduate, Sean Wooten.
nice.
I hired him as an intern when he graduated from ASU's biomedical engineering program.
Mm.
And then all of our engineers, most of our engineers are from that program. And, it's really fun to look around and see all these young folks who are really developing fast because of the opportunity that the company provides them. So when I look at my objectives, I'm a very value-based person and I'm a very public oriented individual. So I'm more on the public interest side than probably the capital side, which probably makes me a little bit unusual as an entrepreneur. But I look at it and I say, we've created economic development for Arizona. We've
Mhm.
created jobs. We've created, these opportunities for these young graduates to accelerate faster in their careers.
Mhm.
And it's fun. I mean, it's draining, but we made it through COVID with all of that
Yeah.
energy of the young folks and the senior people who had been through other things, and we all came together. And I was really impressed. They worked at home, and then they came back to work, and they worked, and the end result was we got our device cleared in October 16th, 2022, and we produced our first device, manufactured it here in Arizona in
Nice.
January of 2023. And
Yes.
we've shipped about 60 of them already. So,
Nice.
we're still struggling. We're still trying to raise capital, but
Of course.
each day we take a step forward, and it's been a nice challenge. I look forward to the day when we're over that hump, and we can look back and just say, because of the dedication of everybody and the commitment to where we were trying to go, we were able to make it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the best parts about this kind of conversation that we have here is taking a moment to, really find perspective and a view of like, look, you guys did so much and it's wonderful. I mean, wow, impressive that 60 of them, not only that, but being able to survive and have the clientele and your actual like people who work with you, that's really great because some might say they didn't have that opportunity, or some might not say that like they were allowed to, they had struggled and didn't make it through COVID. And so that's the unfortunate part. But those that stayed, I always am so intrigued about that story of like how they stayed afloat, how they managed their employees, how they managed the whole thing to move through such a weird and unusual time for everyone. But yes, like that's incredible that you were able to accomplish so much in this time period of unease and irregularity. And so that's the silver lining of this kind of dialogue and perspective view that we're having here. One of the other things that I'd love to just kind of maybe tie some give it some view into that is what your lessons have learned from being in a community like Arizona. Maybe it might have been different in a different state, but it's like what things have you learned most from being here in the Arizona area?
Well, I mean, it's a mixed bag. I'll be honest with you, because I've been in this startup world a long time.
Sure.
And with helping other companies. And I think that the most frustrating thing that we went through and that we've learned is there's a lot of hype about we're here to help startup companies, we're here to do this, we're here to do that,
Yeah.
and then when you go to them, they're not really there. Oh well, you're not here yet, we can't do this, we can't do that, and that's very frustrating because I'm a very direct person. If I
Yeah.
say I'm going to do it, I do it. If I
Yeah.
say I have it, so I get very frustrated, and I was frustrated before my company, but when I was trying to help these other companies, when you hear all these people that talk about everything they're doing to help these companies, but they're not. And they like the limelight of the attention that they get for saying that they're helping entrepreneurs, but in the end, they don't. And so I think that that's, a frustration. Where I've seen really the help come from are organizations like PADT, who was our design group. And, we jumped into it with them. And then when, COVID came and we still wanted to get the development, they really worked with us and still work with us on, getting bills paid and how do we tolerate that? I mean, working with, the person who leased our building, who we lease our building from. Again, they stepped up and said, okay, we'll help you navigate through COVID and we'll give you a break here and we'll give you a delay here. So they stepped to the plate. And, our manufacturer, same thing. I mean, so it's these individual groups that are the ones that step up and really allowed us to make it through that very, very difficult time and still now. So, I love, I mean, when we raised capital, so in cash, we've only raised 1.5 million in capital.
Okay.
And we have like $1 million in convertible notes, and that's like almost nothing to have a company started. And so, when I go to the local VCs and I'm, say like, hey, we started this company, we're selling products and this, and they're like, oh, well, you're not in software, you're not in chips, you're not in, that gets very frustrating because I'm like, yeah, but look at what we did, look at where we are, So, I look forward to the day when we're incredibly successful and we have a lot of people that said, oh, I should have invested.
I would love, that's one of the things for me too. It's like, I don't know much about like, I say because the biomedical world is a little bit out of my purview as far as I'm a landscape architect and a podcaster. So landscape architecture, I mean, I could tell you a lot of things about it, but and I would love to just understand a little bit more of like this VC kind of startup tech world, just because the perspective that we've been told throughout the media is that, ASU and the combination of the universities are doing what they can to bring biomedical into Arizona as a, solid, what is it, like cornerstone for the development of the city and development of this kind of overall growth expansion here in Phoenix. Do you feel the same way? Do you want to bring some perspective or view to what those kind of in the sense of biomedical, like, what that purview looks like, or what the anticipated goal or reach, maybe in helping our listeners understand a little bit more of what you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, or even an overall, like, dealing with the city and what they have to do with your development.
Yeah. I mean, my perspective is everybody's trying to do the right things.
Sure.
When I look at like ASU and the universities, they have strong biotech programs. They have created very nice entrepreneurship programs where they try to take their science and create companies. And, so I think they're very dedicated to that, and the universities have supported that very well.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard the saying for a long time, but when I started BioXcel here in, I think it was 2008, it's the valley of death. Right. You create the company, right? And you get some angels and friends and family, and you start the company, and everybody's all excited about it. So, the university has great technology, and they'll put it into the company. And then the company will get started, and, they're off and running. But then you need really ongoing dollars and to keep you, so that you take this early stage science, which is typically what the universities have. They haven't taken it to the next level. It's, more basic R&D, and now you have to get applied research, and then you have to get the actual commercialization of the product. So that money is really hard to get. And if you look at any where the dollars go, you'll see it's early stage and you'll see it's late stage, but that middle stage isn't. So a lot of people have to go through that valley of death and never make it through it because they can't get that capital. And that's where BioXcel, we used to say we live in the valley of death because we're trying to help get philanthropy and trying to put money there to take them to that next level. And so it was still very hard to get money into BioXcel to help do that, which would benefit the university companies, would benefit entrepreneurs who did it on their own. And so, that in itself is difficult for any company. Any company goes through what I just described, hits this valley of death, and then has to look for venture capital or institutional investors, family funds to help them, take it along the way. It takes more in the biosciences. So like if you're looking at IT, it may not require as much investment, and it doesn't require as long a timeline because you can develop the things faster with less money and maybe not have any of the regulatory hurdles and have that product into market pretty quickly. So from an investor perspective, wow, that's ideal. I put my money in, I see
it's a shorter scope of like having to wait through the valley of death. Whereas if you're doing more of the aesthetic or more of the human touch, and you're having to go through FDA and waiting through that process time, and it's just a headache wait after headache wait after headache wait, and you're just prolonging those moments where you're trying to actually get approved and get the money that is warranted for this need. And the other aspect I'd love to understand is just the overall, for you on a daily basis, how you're keeping your culture and in your employees, how that culture of maybe it's you like having these meetings or being so transparent where you guys are at. What are the things that you keep to allow your employees to feel at ease in this culture of like the valley of the death being such a term, but it's like something that's always on their mind? How do you ease their minds and keep balance?
Well, I think one is you want to show progress. I mean, we are selling devices. We were selling devices before. We have another product called SoMe Skincare. Our new product is the Vivace Ultra RF microneedling device. So, we stay focused on the positive. We've got these products. We've sold 60 of them. We can create our own destiny, which we have, which is selling the products, selling the consumables, and using that revenue to continue to move us forward, which is what we've done. Now we've done it the hard way. I don't know if you ever watched Monty Python and
love Monty Python.
The Dark Knight,
Yes.
It's a flesh wound.
It is a flesh wound.
It's a flesh wound. Your body parts are being cut off, and you're like, it's okay. There's nothing here. I'm still doing it. So we've had a little bit of the Dark Knight, mentality. It's just a flesh wound. And we just keep moving along. And so, I think the staff is like that. And we focus on the progress. Hey, this is a tough road ahead, but this is where we've been, and you should be really proud. I mean, how many companies get FDA clearance? How many companies are manufacturing startup? And so we really do focus on that and, comment on, you guys did this. I mean, think of, you invented this, and they should be really, really proud. And so that's where, we try to, just focus on the positive of where we are. I think the leadership, faces the more of the, hey, it would really be nice for a change to get, investment so we could, have a little less stress. But we really try to focus on the positive. And, I have a saying, which, I said, I tell the staff all the time, you have to find the pony in the shit pile. I said, sometimes the shit pile is very big and the pony's really small. But if you keep looking, you're going to find the positive. And so
I love it.
They got me. It was funny. They got these two little plastic ponies, and they glued it onto a little pile of stuff, and they gave it to me as a gift. So on my desk is two ponies in a pile. And so I laugh. But that's it. There's always good in no matter what happens. And we just focus on the good. I think that's just been how we do things in the company, and it's worked. And I hopefully, more importantly, I hope we're setting these values for them as they move on. And they grow and develop, because we do have a pretty young staff. I say, we have the older folks who happen to be senior leadership, although, three of our executives are probably under 40. Nice. So it's not, we really have a nice, diverse group who brings the new ideas and the old ideas to that. And we recognize that. And I think that helps too, is the whole company see that, everybody has an opportunity.
Absolutely. I think that's really great that you have that, take advantage of that, because again, so the combination of the two, allowing those two mechanisms to work together, will only benefit you in the long run. I love that your staff is so, genuine enough to take a saying like yours and make a little bit of poke a little fun of it, and allowing the toy to be kind of this statuesque, beautiful, like, here's what you tell us all the time. Here's this present for you. I think that's wonderful that they can have the kind of humor that allows for you guys to be like this. So one of the things I'd love to also get to know you a little bit more on a personal level is, can you give me an understanding of, like, for you, where do you think that? Oh, hi, kitty.
Well,
I have mine. Mine are. I have one. There's literally, like, right here. There's a cat tree that's like cut off, and she's laying like right at the top. So don't worry.
Georgina comes in and out, and very rarely. So she just had to say hi. Yes. She's our huntress.
I love mine is called Ray Ray. So she's over here. She's laying down, and we call our studio Two Cats and a Dog Studio. We usually just had two cats, and it was just Two Cat Studio, but now we have the dog and everything. I love animals. I'm a big fan.
Me too. They're just such a sense of peace, and I love cats because they're so independent, and they, when they want to be with you, they are, and then it's just I love independence.
Exactly. I'm the same way. I'm like, the independence is what gets me. But sometimes, and this is why I have a dog, I just need the cuddles, and I need it without any kind of regulatory, anything. I just need it. And so she is where I get my like genuine, unconditional, like, she doesn't care. She just wants it. I used to have
my meditation. I meditate in the morning, and I'd sit there, try to be very quiet. And then my oldest cat would come sit next to me, and then the dog would sit on the other side. So instead of doing this, I'd have my hands on each of them,
Yep. I love it. I think of what I'm thinking about, you're so kind and so open to me, and just it means like you're open with your staff, and just, I'd love to understand, it's like, for you, where do you think your passion for this business, or your passion for, let's say, science and medical, comes from? Is it a family practice that is down, like, you guys, do you have doctors in your family, or do you think the love of science is just something that you've developed on your own?
I think it's probably developed on my own. We don't have any doctors in the family. My father and mother opened their own business in our house, an insurance business. Okay. So I think I get the entrepreneurial spirit from them, to open it up in an office in the house, and then build it. And, they grew it in our little town in Ohio, to one of the largest independent insurance agencies in the local area. I was, lived with that, and, it just became part of me. they, my mother was Czechoslovakian and my father was Italian, and it was still that era where, their parents had come from Europe, and so we still had the grandparents that spoke different languages, and they were still dedicated to, hey, we have to achieve this. We've got to give our family every opportunity, our kids.
For sure.
So that certainly was in the background. I think I think where it comes from is I always, when I was young, said I wanted to be a nurse, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I graduated from the Ohio State University, and I started out in nursing. And, it was like, first time I did volunteer work and I saw somebody sick, I was like, nah, I don't want to do this. And so then I moved to speech pathology and audiology and started working. I thought, okay, I'll still help people that way. And I didn't have the patience for that, so I then went to Washington, D.C., and I was a drug counselor at the VA hospital in Washington, D.C. for a couple of years. And that was a really tough job. The most of the folks that I dealt with, and it was a program that brought the folks in for at least 30 days, mostly male drug addicts off of the streets of DC. So I got a whole new awareness of what life is really like outside of my little town that I grew up in.
Yep.
And, in that, all of that, again, I believe you really learn from every experience you have, right?
Yes.
And so, what I learned is I loved it. I learned a lot from them from a personal perspective. But I also learned that, I don't think I'm very good at the working with the patient type of
the bedside manner.
It's just like, I think, okay, I could do it, but that's not really what I'm built to do. And so that I ended up getting this job with the National Cancer Institute VA program that was located in the hospital in Washington, D.C. And they were part of the larger NIH that was in Bethesda, Maryland. And so they hired me to be their admin person, doing the administrative work for the patient care unit that was there. And so I did that, and I really just took to it. And then we moved out to the Naval Hospital, and it was the NCI Naval, medical oncology program. And we were right in the middle of, trying to find cures for lung cancer and melanoma. And I just loved that. And at that point in time, I said, this is where I need to be. I need to be on the business side of science. Yes. And so I went on and I got my MBA in science, innovation, and commercialization. And that is why when the opportunity at NIH rose for me to grab on to this tech transfer and, get these research outcomes, this new knowledge, and help it into the private sector and help, use public funds wisely, it was just everything that I wanted to do. Absolutely. And that was how I got into the science side because, I really, we pay a lot of money in taxes, and I like to see it well spent. And they did so much research, beautiful research at NIH that needed to get, into the right pathway so the public could benefit from it. And then when you're at NIH, you see they're working on things that there's no cures for. Right. I mean, so when I was at NCI, lung cancer, you get diagnosed with that. You get diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. There's not an endpoint. So you're seeing, people that are at their last chance. And then you really realize, and you talk to the families that, we've got to do more. We've got to try to do more for these families, especially if you look at the pediatrics and you see those families struggling. So it just became a passion to say, how can I try to make a difference? I can't fix everything, but at least if I can do this a little bit, I can feel good about myself. And,
absolutely.
So that's what I did. And I thought the tech transfer really was the bridge that I could help build to make that happen more in a reality, to really be able to say, I got that agreement done with this pharma company that ended up in this vaccine actually being delivered to the public. And that makes a difference for families and children. And when I was at NIAID, we were working on AIDS. And when everybody was just worried that everybody was going to get AIDS, it was kind of like the pandemic, the COVID, where they didn't know anything at first. Everybody was worried about it. Everybody was in a panic. And then to watch that get to a point where we actually had the first drug available for HIV patients and seeing it make a difference. And, so it sometimes is a long pathway to that. But sometimes it's not, like COVID, you got those vaccines out there. Well, those vaccines wouldn't be out there if you didn't have NIH and NIAID building that infrastructure to allow that to happen.
Yeah.
And so, and it killed me to see NIAID beat up and Dr. Fauci beat up because he was in government. When you spend your whole life when you're in the government, really, especially the research scientists at NIH, trying to make a difference. They could make more money on the outside. They could do things, but every day they go in there trying to make a difference for the public. Exactly. And that gets lost.
And I think that, I think that's something that is not discussed as much. I mean, really, if you look at the scope of like how these vaccines come out and how these developing medicines are constantly regulated, and it's such a slow process. Like people don't realize how much red tape is into the world of not only medical, but it's like the red tape of just government, like trying to get something passed as a bill. It's like it takes months. It takes almost years, even more if you're doing like FDA regulated stuff, because they want to make sure that you're not going to hurt someone. Like they really do want things to come out to help benefit humans. But at the same time, we can't not test humans. Like we can't really test, like we can't test on the open public. It's not beneficial because you're going to hurt someone, but it's like they really want to regulate it so that they can allow for people to have something that is fully developed and fully going to help you and not hurt you in the long run. So it does take time, it does take patience, and really we shouldn't be pointing the finger at the people who are doing the best they can with the timeline that they're really like given. It really is something that is out of their purview almost.
Well, you're in a catch-22 when you're in a
catch-22 is the word.
Where they say hurry, 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 and so you try to hurry, 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 and then when you come up with something, they say, "Oh, you didn't, you should have taken more time." And it's like, okay, which do you want? Do you want us to hurry up and get something done that might make a difference, or do you want us to take our good old time and it's perfect, and then people have died because we didn't do that? And I think that they try to achieve a balance, but that's why I think getting back to the positive of why setting up these research infrastructures, setting up, this ability to get a company started and have the resources along the way to, help them get products into for public use. And, if FDA didn't do what they did and somebody took a drug, we would have the whole legal system attacking them and filing suit, So because we're up against this whole, legal, this horrible, what I call, what we have now is this legal system of malpractice and, attacking people and suing, where you're afraid to do anything because you're going to be attacked by this group, which I think are bigger monsters than anybody else, certainly bigger than government, in terms of getting in the way and hurting people in the long run. So,
Well, I appreciate again, MaryAnn, for all your time and just energy into something that you've kind of grown into. I go back and look at our conversation. I'm listening to you, and it's another story of growth and development into something. Like as you evolve, you're growing even into another position or going into this other business. And for me, it's just all of your story is kind of like the process of developing your brand or your business. Is like it's like this same kind of like I'm gonna achieve here and then move on to like, because it's not something exactly fitted for me, but I am still in the same arena. But I'm just going to grow here and I'm going to grow more and I'm going to develop more. And it's just going to be along for, it's just something so beautiful that you've grown into this person and this business and this brand. So I really do appreciate all the time and effort that you've put into this and your employees and your business. So it just means a lot that something and someone like you have taken the time and patience to make yourself as where you are today. So I only wish you nothing but the best of luck towards the future. And with that being said, I always leave the end bit here. This is kind of our concluding question is, can you give us a goal or something that you want our listeners to maybe help you out with, or maybe to let them know about something with your business?
Well, that's a good question. It's a good ending question. I think that a goal is to really understand how complicated it is for, particularly when you're in biotechnology, to take something from new knowledge, as I call it, that's come out of an inventor or university or whatever, and take it all the way to the finish line. I think that's really important, and to support that infrastructure. If you can angels really help small companies, but encouraging anybody that that might be investors or that might get involved in this is that the tough thing about like the business like I do, it's risk, right? When you're doing it, people want less risk and they want their return faster. But to me, a lot of the things that are the most important for the public are the things that are going to take more money, they're going to be higher risk, and they're going to take a long time. But in the end, you're going to have this drug that makes a difference, or you're going to have, I got in the aesthetics world, and it was different for me because I used to say, I'm in serious science, right? What am I doing in aesthetics? What am I doing to make people, get rid of fine lines and wrinkles? How did I fall from grace from the NIH to what I'm doing now? But I spoke with people, and I speak with people now, and we're on social media, we're, all the time, and people really feel that, they have to look good. Mm-hmm. If they don't, if they look old, if they look like they're aging, it's depression and anxiety and stress. Yeah. And we're a different world. And so this plays like a different role. We've got physical health problems, but we've got a lot of mental health problems too going on. And I think with what we do is try to make people feel good about themselves, help them, navigate as they age in a graceful manner and to feel as good as they can about themselves along the way. And so that has turned into, really something that has become more and more important in the world as the social media has come up, where we see, mental health, depression, anxiety coming up. And when I spoke to a former president of Blue Cross Blue Shield, he said, MaryAnn, if you could help us reduce the cost with aging and mental health and anxiety, that would be worth an unbelievable amount to the public. And so that's kind of how I allowed myself to get into this. And now that I'm into it, I really feel it is an important thing. And I'm really glad that I'm doing it and making people feel better about themselves every day of their lives. So, but I think that everyone has to recognize all of these complexities that come into forming a business, why you form a business. And, it's important to support these businesses, especially in Arizona, because we are driving the economy. We are the ones hiring, the college kids, your sons and your daughters, and, giving them that opportunity, which we want to have. And so, wherever they can play a role, talking to somebody, supporting these startup companies, supporting investments and all of that, I really encourage them to do something, because one day they will say, because of that, my child's life was saved, or this happened, or what happened. I know when I was at NIH, every single time I got a call from somebody and said, my sister, my brother, my relative, whoever, friend needed help, and we got them on a clinical study, they didn't necessarily survive, but they always survived longer. They always had a longer opportunity, and many of them did survive. And so, people don't see that every day. They don't realize the importance of it. And I want them to do that. I want them to see the positive side of so many things that are going on, rather than all this negative crap that we hear every day, that's going on. So, just leave them with, there are a lot of opportunities.
Absolutely.
Startup world is a good world, and they should support it as much as they can.
I love that. Thank you so much for leaving us on that positive note, MaryAnn. Last but not least, please let us know where we can find you online, all your social media handles. Let us know where they can find you on the social network.
Yeah, okay. So we have, if you just go to aestheticsbiomedical.com, we've got a great website. It gives you all the information that you need, all of our handles, and I just encourage you to do that to learn more about the company and learn more about what we're trying to do. And hopefully if you go to social media and just look up Vivace Experience, that'll get you there, and it'll show you everything that we're trying to do.
Awesome. And last but not least, we do have a little bit of an outro here for ourselves. You can hear every episode of our podcast at findingarizonapodcast.com. All social media is under Finding Arizona Podcast, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You let us know who you want in next, and we'll try to get them in. And as always, we always end our podcast with kisses, hugs, and belly rubs to our four-legged friends. We will see you on the next one. Have a good one, y'all. Bye.
Bye.